Hello, the Finance Committee meeting is called to order at 10:35 on Wednesday, February 21st. All members are present, that being Alderwoman Finlayson to my right and Alderwoman O'Neill to my left. At this time, I'll accept a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve agenda for 2/21/24.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. At this time, I'll accept a motion to approve the meeting minutes of February 7th, 2024.
Move approval of the minutes from the February 7th meeting.
All in
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And thank you, Sheila, for running the last part of that. Okay,
Can I make a motion to have Ellie Tierney be chair of the Finance Committee meeting?
I will second that. I'd like to speak to it, however. I think we have spoken, and this isn't going to impact our decision here, but we had all, I think, talked about rotating the leadership annually. And I think that we should get to a point where we can do that, so that there's no one person who is chairing all the time, and everybody has experiences and opportunities. So we haven't gotten there yet, but I think it should be on our radar to think about that.
Fair.
That's very fair. I have no problem with that. Okay, so all in favor of electing myself as chair.
Me.
Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Can't do it without you guys. All right, so next we have legislation. Hot off the press here, it's R6-24. It's fee schedule updated, and it says for ordinance 030-23, which I'm not sure what the relationship is.
This is the ordinance. 030 is the ordinance.
Okay.
This is the resolution.
But we're just looking at the resolution,
Yeah,
the
the
fee
resolution
increases,
is
which
on
is,
the
yeah.
Did we already approve the ordinance?
Yeah, I think we did look at that separately. Yeah, that got passed.
This is the fees.
It's-
for that.
Right, so we already approved 030-23.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is because it's under the same title, these fees, and they'll be in the budget. I think we're getting these to Katie Conley at the same
This goes
time.
on second reader on Monday.
This-
So-
030 and this will
Oh,
go on second
okay.
reader if you guys recommend this thing.
Okay.
So did we make a recommendation for 030-23 from finance?
No, just for your committee recommended it favorably.
So finance is not making a recommendation on 030.
030, we put the 030 in the with the resolution.
Just for,
So the ordinance goes under the resolution as an attachment now, instead of putting both on your agendas, so that you have it present here.
are we reviewing 030? Are we
It
making any, it's just for reference then?
Yes.
It's just for
It
reference?
wasn't recommended to finance.
It wasn't,
committee.
yeah, it says here,
Okay.
Transportation Committee, Rules and City Government.
Yes, transportation.
Okay.
rules.
So are you talking 30 or are you talking R6?
30 was.
No, which were
I
you
was talking
reading?
about ordinance 30-23 was
Okay, so
referred
that did
to.
not come to finance, so
No.
it's only the resolution.
Yeah, so it's just for reference.
You
Okay.
have the new, you have the amendment?
You
That's-
you
Yeah,
probably should have it.
Cynthia, could we get another?
I have one.
Oh, okay,
Is it got the blue? Okay,
okay.
all right,
yeah.
It's
And
the
I
Star
said absolutely.
Spangled.
okay. All right, well, let me just give you the genesis of this. When Premium came on board and they did their, inventory of, when permits came in, specifically in 1 and 2, there are more permits than parking spaces, which kind of creates a burden with people with, let's put it this way, if every resident that has a permit just had 1 or 2 cars, they're probably still wouldn't be enough spaces, to quote Brendan. So we at first said, well, the District 1 and 2, they've been going through a lot lately, so we don't want to raise their fee for 1 or 2 cars, which the majority of them have. So we didn't raise the fee for 1 or 2 cars. And we were thinking about just saying, look, you can only register 3 cars, but after discussion with our ombudsman, who gets a lot of the complaints, she thought that that would be backfire big time, even though there aren't that many. But anyway, so we took some advice from the Netherlands and said, you know, for the extra burden on the streets, we're asking for an increase. So let me just sort of walk you through this resolution, the way it's listed. We always isolated 1 and 2 because of the density. So going down here, at an address with no off-street parking, which the majority of residents in 1 and 2 don't have, you know, driveways or garages. But anyway, so 55 for 1, 75 for 2. That doesn't change.
Madam Chair, I think it does. If you look at the original language, it changes from 75 to 100. Look on your iPad, because it's not on the amendment that we have in front of us.
Let me look and see what's in front of us.
Oh, it's at the bottom.
Okay, maybe I don't.
Ms. Dickinson. Jody's trying to get your attention.
Yes.
In the first section that says, at an address with no off-street parking, it's 75 currently. On the one online, it says you're trying to make that 100, but it's not on the paper copy that we have in front of us. Yeah.
It is. We found it. It's on the bottom in a different chart.
Okay, I'm going to ask Cynthia, can you go through this as far as the chronology? I'm just a little confused
All right.
on what is in front of us. I know we do separate with or without off-street parking.
Right. So Cynthia Reuter, Office of Law Policy Analyst. Okay, the section at the bottom of the page in red, that is the changes that are recommended in the resolution. And for a resident with no off-street parking, the resolution would have raised it from $75 to $100 a year for the second vehicle. In the amendment, that goes back to $75.
Okay. So,
Now, if you flip the page over, you'll see at an address with off-street parking, each additional vehicle was $100. That does not change.
May I ask why we changed it to 100 and then we changed it back?
The idea was to keep
I'm talking about
the first and second,
Yeah.
the prices for the first and second vehicle the same.
why, I'm sorry for my frustration, why can't we just look, when I look at this, the top is where we're at right now.
Correct.
That's what we decided on a half hour ago.
Right.
Okay. So that chronology, if you will, is kind of confusing, but let me think. You know, I want you to look at the blue. That's where we're at right now. What it was before, I'm confused because it's in blue.
The blue is the amendment. The red represents the changes recommended in the original resolution.
Okay, hold on.
So in the amendment, we're changing the second vehicle from the increase from 75 to 100. So we're going back to 75.
Correct. So the amendment is in blue, which is the most current. Okay.
So, Madam Chair, the question is that your intent? Did you want the second vehicle to remain at 75?
Correct.
Or
Yes.
to go to 100 in your original?
No, we wanted it to go back,
Okay.
yeah.
So we should just be looking at what's in
The
blue
top.
and not paying attention to what's in red.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, and just checking to make sure the numbers are what we discussed. Okay, sorry, Cynthia, I know what you're trying to do, I just don't want to confuse I want to make sure all blue is current, so, yeah, so the top list is what we're doing, and the logic was to not give as much of an impact in outside of District 3, 4, and 5. We did isolate, just so District 1 and 2 wouldn't say, hey, how come you're just raising ours for 3 or more? We did insert 3 or more vehicles for 3, 4, and 5. Would that impact your district too much, or, I don't know?
Nope.
Okay. Okay.
I agree that this makes the most sense because we're trying to alleviate the problems in 1 and 2
Mhm.
with more vehicles than parking spaces.
Right.
And everybody should get their 1 or 2,
Mhm.
but not
Yeah.
everybody has 3, 4, or 5, so.
Yeah. Yeah, and in District 1 and 2, it's almost understood. 3, 4, and 5, we just had to be careful, and, there's more parking spaces available. And what we're also trying to do with addresses with off-street parking is we raise those even more, if you see, in 1 and 2, because we want them to use those driveways. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they, use it for other reasons, like, yeah.
Right.
Right. So, yeah, I had made a first pass at this, and was the red and blue, whatever, so, but our latest discussion was this, and Brendan actually with Premium was very helpful because they are a national company, and he actually went through this and did what he saw worked in other places. Thank you, Cynthia. Do we have any other questions?
No other questions from me.
So we ignoring,
Sort of ignoring the red.
I'm just looking for 12.32.110. That is all on the second page.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yes.
Because it looks the same as what's on the top of the first page.
It is the same.
Yeah, it's the same. I
Okay.
just double checked that.
Yeah. So, Madam Chair, I'll make a favorable recommendation for the Tierney Amendment to R624.
Second.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. I got it.
And this is going to be added into. Yes. For Monday's meeting.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But can we just add what we need?
Yes. Don't add any of this stuff, just the blue.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cynthia.
And you guys are gonna need these on Monday.
But we don't need this part. We just need.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. All right, got past that one. Okay, the next one is R9-24. This is city-supported
Wait.
special events.
Y'all need approved.
Oh, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I
recommendation on the amendment.
back up and recommend that we give a favorable
Oh,
recommendation
we didn't do that?
for R6 as amended.
Second.
Oh, we got a question. Yes.
So we did a fiscal note, I assume on the original R624. I don't see it attached. In that case, I believe it wasn't impacting the current fees. It was just reinstating what they should be, correct, to the districts. But with the amendment and allowing each property to get a spot, an extra spot and a fourth spot, does that impact the total amount of revenue we can earn for that space on an annual basis?
I'm not,
It increases it.
yeah,
So let's say if there's a house and they get a third space for their house, that third space can no longer be used by a public person, correct? That now belongs to the house.
I think you're looking at it in a complicated way. I think.
Well, what I'm trying to
Theoretically.
say is, if we rent it to the public, how much does that earn in a year? Versus if we give somebody a permit and allow them to use it for the year, does that impact the total amount of revenue that will come to the city for that spot?
So potentially it could reduce the amount of revenue.
It could reduce, I don't know, because I don't know what each spot.
Is this in District 1, and is this because of the agreement, Jody, 1 and 2?
I think this is theoretically, if we were going to designate that extra space, then what it would cost them to have it if they have a permit, or if that space were available for public use.
Correct, like what is the difference between what a space, if you're talking about a spot on the street,
With Park Mobile?
yeah.
Anybody.
Yeah, if we have a space on the street that somebody can park in,
Yeah.
if we're going to allow a resident to claim that spot, right? And we're gonna collect $200 per year.
We would be losing money then.
Because a person that doesn't live there could use it on and off for a daily basis, and the income earning potentially for that one spot is probably higher.
Except for, up until now, we've only charged $100 for that spot, for that
Yeah.
resident to have the third spot. So up until now, we've only been able to get $100,
Yeah.
but now.
Right, so now we'll get 200, that offsets some of that.
Loss potential.
So we were losing to begin with.
Yes.
Now we're,
In the Park Mobile areas where we're charging,
Okay, so
otherwise,
so
aren't we charging
currently,
in all what do you mean where we're charging? Park Mobile, aren't we charging in all spaces?
in 1 and 2,
1 and 2,
yeah, it's a different calculation.
Okay, I think I can help clarify this. The number of cars at each household,
Hasn't changed.
it has not
change.
changed.
I see, she's just pointed out to me that
Yeah.
that we used to give them as many spots as they want to for
As long as they
$100
pay
a year.
permit.
And now this is trying to make that more costly for those?
Yeah, we're not changing the car count at all. We're just making
Okay,
it more costly.
you're increasing it.
So, right, so if your baseline is status quo, it's an increase.
Okay.
marginally.
I just want to,
Yeah.
that's important, having if they could always have 10 spots, and now it's going to cost them more, that's fine then. I was thinking we were taking a space away from the public and giving it
No,
to a
that's what I
resident,
thought you were
which would be
thinking.
the opposite
No,
effect.
it's status quo as far as car counts.
Well, may I ask, Ms. Dickinson, have you calculated this out in the past as to how,
I would have to work with the parking companies to do that, to see what the income earning potential is on each spot. But if we're only making the price higher for residents, that's probably only going to help us.
Good.
I don't know if it would make a resident say, okay, I don't want 4 spots, now I only want 3, and then that frees up a spot for
Possibly.
the public, you know. So this is
Yeah.
a generator. It's just when we originally looked at the resolution, I think it was just to reestablish what the rates were supposed to be within those districts, and there was no fiscal impact. But I just wanted to make sure with this amending language that, you know, we had thought about fiscal impact.
Yeah, I mean, Alderman Finlayson is, you know, correct. It is, you know, a deterrent, if you will. You know, it is
Yes.
unreasonable.
And I think in this
For cars
case,
parked on
with
the
those,
street.
talking this through just now, this is a positive revenue generator only. The effect of this could be positive.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to make sure, because when looking at this, I started to get
Yeah,
concerned that we had we're not required to give you a fiscal impact note for amendments, but this has got some changes, so, okay, thank you.
Be helpful.
So what's on the floor right now?
The next item.
No, we have to.
We have to approve the
confirm.
amended.
I thought we,
We didn't, we started asking questions.
oh, okay.
So we just need to.
Second,
Vote,
oh,
been
all in
seconded.
favor of the amended resolution? The
Aye.
resolution as amended.
aye.
Okay. Okay, now we're on to the city-supported events. They used to be called something different. They used to be called sponsored events, for whatever reason. We changed that. So it's kind of exciting, because if you look at page 2 of 2, Felicia keeps, you know, per special event legislation that my predecessor and Alderman Arnett, and I think you worked on forever.
And Alderman Budge, yeah,
Right,
he
the
was the
predecessor,
impetus
yeah,
behind
yeah,
a
because
lot
of-
of the
And as
Committee.
Felicia and I talked about, this might, you know, I don't know what we're gonna do next year. Like, where all these people go, because we might be under construction. I think it's a really equitable list. We added, you know, Juneteenth and the Pride Parade and diaspora. I'll learn how to say correctly. And what, and it still meets the current code as far as how many events can be held at City Dock, et cetera. The fiscal impact is there as well, which by now we sort of have a good handle of. And thank you, Katie Connolly, for doing that.
I had a question.
Yeah.
So, well, I support the St. Patrick's Day Parade and the things surrounding it. It seems,
Where is that? What page is that?
it's the
Okay,
Naptown
thank you.
events on page 2.
Yeah.
About 2/3 the way down. You know, the police and fire, you know, 7,000 and 2,100.
I'm sorry, which one are you referring to?
On this.
Are you on the
Page
fiscal
2 of the
impact note?
fiscal impact note, yes.
Okay.
So something like Naptown events. I think it's a great event. It brings a lot of people to our city. The parade is the longest parade ever, bringing people from all around. So I think that the economic benefit is great. I worry that our police and fire are being taxed heavily for that weekend as far as overtime and I just wanted to point that out. I don't know what I want to do about it, but for us to waive, is that waiving all of the fees? I guess it's the police overtime and the police fire and the fire overtime. Is that correct, Director Dickinson?
Yeah, so what we've done for the fees for the events that were listed, gone back and seen, reviewed the fees that we waived in the past for this effort, so that would have been waived
So
and not
it is
collected,
just-
so we pay the overtime and we don't get reimbursed for it.
The same could be said for,
May,
For Pride?
yeah.
may I ask, Some of these have, I'm looking for the things that are consistent. There are no police included in the African diaspora events, for example, which I think take place at City Dock. Surely there must be some police and fire impact. It's the last one, the African diaspora. And I had looked at Juneteenth and the amount for police and fire there. I'm just looking for the parallel of what we're charging or what we're determining are our costs for, the light parade, for example, $2,300 for the light parade compared to $20,000 for Juneteenth. And we're talking 10 times as many people come to the boat parade than to Juneteenth. So I'm just questioning how those numbers were determined, because I'm not seeing any.
It's a festival, I think.
So if you have detailed questions on the events, I would suggest Felicia come to the meeting and talk about what goes on in each event.
Yeah.
A couple things came to mind while you were speaking. One, if we were using police during their normal workday, that's one thing. If we have to pay them extra overtime, that's an additional cost for the city that we take on. We'd be paying them for their hours anyway. Now we're paying them overtime. In addition, there may be situations where we don't waive the entire fee for the event. We waive certain fees for the event, and we're collecting on some of them. This is supposed to be depicting what we've waived. So those situations could be in place. I don't know them by detail to know what happened in each event. It would have to do with the hours, the area, where they're walking to, the area that they're filling, what's needed there. There's a lot of variables that would affect the event and what the fees are.
Is the African diaspora concurrent with something else? Is it held separately?
That's a pretty new event. I'm not even sure. That's something out of the mayor's office, I
Yeah,
believe.
that's,
One of-
Tola.
Yeah. I'm looking at,
The disparity.
and I don't want us to come back and say, well, this event cost us a whole lot more money. Maybe we should be, reconsidering our support for. I want all the numbers to be accurate and consistent. Our police, as much as I hate the thought of them working 12-hour shifts, they do. And they negotiated that, so that's on them. But it's not like police and fire work 9-to-5 jobs. Now, if we have a shortage of staff, that's a whole nother issue. If we don't have adequate staff to work the hours of the events, because we're short-staffed, period. That's a whole nother, this could get really detailed. But I just want to make note of the fact that I don't see the parity in one event over others, especially as it relates to police and fire and other department costs. And Ms. Buckland, I don't expect you to have an answer for that, but I do want it noted.
Just to be clear, is it based on actual data or estimated, or both?
It's a little bit of both.
Okay.
Some of it's based on historical, how much we've ended up doing. Some of those events don't have a super long history, so those are obviously much more truly estimates if we've only done them for a few years. And some of them are still growing. Director Dickinson's point is a good one. If we're interested in some details, we should probably circle back with Felicia. And of course, she she doesn't generate those estimates herself, those are done by the department, so.
And I wasn't expecting answers I just wanted to point out.
No, your point's well taken. Yeah.
There's something different here.
Yep. No, your point's well taken.
Well, I was questioning, if I may, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Alderman
For
O'Neill.
instance, Naptown Events, we're waiving police overtime that's at 7,000. For Annapolis Pride, we're waiving police overtime that's at 5,900. But we're talking about the difference between a 3-day event or a 3 kind of events versus a 1-day event that's 12 to 5. But we're talking, Naptown Events is the Hoolie on Friday, the parade, and then the party after the parade. So I kind of call that 3 events, but that's over.
Yeah, and I don't think again, this is where we would need to get Felicia in. I don't think all of that is waived.
Well, 7,000 is.
Yeah, but I think there are a number, as you point out, there's several different pieces to that. I'm not sure that all of those pieces get pursued as waivers.
Okay, so in Pride, we're probably waiving a higher percentage of the police overtime than for the Naptown events. Okay.
To make it
But
more
again,
confusing here.
that is an assumption on my part.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'm not sure what we're looking at in the sense that I would match every one of these events we had a resolution for previously. So I was like, for example, I'm looking at R 14-22, which was the Juneteenth parade.
That's my birthday.
And that fiscal, and that the total revenue forfeited from this event, this was an estimate probably of it was $4,300. I guess my point is we previously approved the events, so we're really isolating the fee in this review.
Yeah, Felicia and I had spoken about that of like, when does something come onto this sort of common list?
Yeah.
And what she and I had spoken of was that if the council had established a history of having waived it for a couple of years, for example, then we would think about putting it on the common list to honor that history. Obviously, at the end of the day, you guys get to choose, but we didn't want to proactively put something on this common list that the council didn't have a history of
Approving.
approving. Right.
Right. And we have, I'm cross-checking as we go. So yeah, there's like a resolution for the St. Patrick's Day Parade.
Do we list in those resolutions the fees? I don't recall us having dollar amounts attached.
Yeah, there is a staff.
Most
report in
of
this-
them have.
They do have okay.
Yeah.
Well, for us, first of all, Juneteenth is my birthday, so we're not striking anything with Juneteenth. I'm just saying that up front. Kidding.
Point, no, we got it.
But we're looking at a total of $80,000. And I think as a finance committee, we need to decide if this is an amount we want to dedicate to the community relations piece, the community contribution to, the city's contribution to these community events. As you've said, there's a variety of types of events, that will touch probably every segment of our community. So I think that's an amount we need to keep in mind if we're really interested in this, that we set that aside as the amount.
Thank you for totaling them.
Yeah, well, it's on, I didn't, it's
Oh, is
in
it
here.
total? I couldn't see the total.
I saw the
Where the
total
heck is the
somewhere.
total?
I'm not sure where I saw
Okay.
it, but Ms. Dickinson, was I wrong? Did I see in the first paragraph approximately $79,139?
There you go. Okay.
The total of all those amounts
Right, so that's why I said $80,000. If we want to do this, then we put that in the budget, $80,000 for these city-sponsored events. And then leave it to Ms. Buckland and Felicia, Ms. Nolan and Ms. Dickinson to figure out how to divvy it up.
It's 400 hotel rooms. I don't know what else, which,
Well, we have a lot of things we pay for. Some we know a lot more about than others, so. But, Madam Chair, I would make a motion that we give a favorable recommendation to R924.
I'll second.
all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you
Okay.
for simplifying that. Okay. All right, last but not least, we have general discussion from the Finance Department. Director Dickinson, how's that ACFR coming along? ACFR.
CAFR.
ACFR? ACFR.
I still call it the.
ACFR, the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report.
thinking of-
It is done. My assistant director was heading off on a vacation, and she was determined to get that done by Friday when she was off. So she's now relaxing at some southern location, undisclosed southern location in the sunshine on the beach.
Undisclosed.
Okay, so we have it done. I can send it to the council. She sent it to a couple of agencies that were waiting for it. And so we're now on the distribution phase, and she's going to finish distributing it when she gets back, but I can send it to the council along with all the single audit and the other letters that go with it.
Okay, no preview of any sense of how the year went? Not until it's before us?
Well, I would have it before you before I try to, outline what the results were. I know that I've talked about it in general before. We had a pretty good year. We didn't need to use any of our ARPA monies for the operating costs in '23, and we've been adding to the reserves. So again, it was a good year. The budget estimates and revenue were not far off, so a lot of the savings came on the expense side with the turnover, the vacancy savings that we're getting from all the departments. So that's a very, very broad overview, but you're going to want to look at it probably in detail and talk about any questions that you have on the results. The single audit did not have any issues, any findings, any recommendations to that. They looked at transportation ARPA funds. It was a big grant that they tested for that purpose. And I've seen no management letter, which means they didn't have any recommendations as far as internal control improvements, unless they haven't issued it, but I assume they've given us all their letters to date.
May I ask, so they don't come before the council anymore? They used to do a presentation to the full council. It's probably prior to your tenure, Ms. Dickens.
Yeah, I think that was a while ago. We usually have some kind of discussion before the audit committee, because the audit committee is charged with choosing the auditors and reviewing the audit. So we will put that on the schedule for this spring for them to, there are certain things they need to discuss with you and discuss with the finance committee in person. So we do that with the finance committee. We can do it in other venues too, but the audit committee, you could just attend the audit committee and ask any questions you'd like there.
They
as well.
present to the finance as well, you said?
I think we should
No, it would be,
request that
it would be
they-
audit committee. I would recommend that we just have one meeting where we talk about it with whoever's interested in being there. And that could be the audit committee and have the other council members attend the audit committee and ask questions.
It'll make Ross feel good.
Well, I'd like to recommend that they come before the finance committee and we invite the audit committee. I thought the audit committee was defunct, but maybe they're not.
No, they're still meeting.
It's Ross's committee.
I know, and that's why I was told that, so, but maybe I misunderstood. Anyway, I think we should have a joint meeting, whether it's ours or theirs, and have them come before the committee.
Okay, that would, let's try to get it on the schedule.
Yeah.
Keelan can help with that.
Yeah.
And we have some kind of joint committee. We should talk to Alderman Arnett as well, make sure he's okay with the joint effort, and you guys can schedule it together.
Yeah, I think that's a great.
And then it's important that we coordinate, of course, with the audit firm, that they can make those dates. And probably besides the things that they're required to discuss with you, if you would let us know anything of interest that you'd like to cover in that discussion, because normally they just have elements of the audit process that they need to relay to the governing board. And that deals with the controls and the audit process, and if they had any issues during the audit, those are required communications. So if you want anything in addition, like a summary of how the year went, that kind of thing, that's not something they would normally provide, but we can pull something like that together, and I could give that to you as well.
Who's the governing board?
In this case, it'd be whatever board is charged with reviewing the audit results, and the audit committee serves that purpose here. And for other businesses that have audit committees, they deliver it to the audit committee. In some cases, they'll deliver it to a board of directors, but in this case, it would be the audit committee has the charge and the code to review the audit results.
Since we've only had an audit committee for the last, 6 years? Because we didn't have an audit committee prior to that. So the governing board was the city council, has been the city council.
Yes, it has been, and in the last 6 years, they've delivered their presentation to the audit committee.
So when you know when they're presenting, could you give Kaylin advance notice, and we can try to set up a joint meeting? Probably best for the audit committee to come to a finance committee meeting, I think.
That should be your decision with Alderman Arnett.
Yeah, because I think the audit committee still meets virtually. Well, I know
Yes, they do, and they have outside members as well. So if it's your intent to not do it virtually, you'd want to make sure that they can coordinate their
I
schedules.
think we'd want it in person, so it would be our venue. And so who can help arrange that?
Well, I would discuss it with Alderman Arnett.
Yeah.
And Kim Moronsky on my staff handles their scheduling. And Hillary also is coordinator of all the commissions, so she would be involved as well.
Oh, yeah, they usually have a pretty light agenda audit, so, okay. Do we need to make a motion on that, or just, yeah?
I think we should put it in the record that we'd like a joint meeting with the audit committee to hear
Got
from
it.
the auditors.
Okay. And then just up for the record, not a
If you want to
motion,
vote on
yeah.
it, that means
Not a
that
vote.
it'll have to, it'll follow through. It'll be an action.
So in looking at the quarterly update of the budget, I just made this really simple observation, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you gave us the second quarter update, Katie sent it to us, and everything is tracking like very well. We're at, like, I saw numbers of 47% spent, is that a fair assumption? There was nothing that had overspent to date?
No, not to date. There are certain line items that are, depending on, like our debt service numbers are almost all spent because a lot of our payments are in August, so those all hit early in the year. But on a departmental basis, we're good. There are some departments that are currently on trend to overspend at the end of the year, which is what we're watching. And there were notations to the right of that report about if we're working with a department to figure out where we need to get funds from to finish out the year.
Was that Parks and Recs?
Yeah, Rec and Parks was some of it. I don't recall if there were any other departments involved. needing to move some money around. So we'll be working with them on that to figure out where the shortages are. There may be other departments that feel like they're going to run short at the end of the year, and we typically have a year-end, fourth quarter budget transfer where we try to make whole those that have those issues.
So forgive my construction estimating analogy, but when I look at that, they have a fixed scope, if you will, in the budget. You know, they have a fixed scope of, you know, line item scope. So they're not in trouble. And so I look at that, like for police, for example, was the one that I thought about the most, that people say, oh my God, they need more money, they need more money. They're not overspending it, so what they need more money on then is additional scope. It would have to be, you know, it's very
Yeah,
simple logic.
yes.
They're not overspending on identified scope. They're not overspending on staff right now. So any money we add to the police is for additional things. Does that make sense? I'm just really
Programs.
oversimplifying it.
Yeah,
You know, it isn't like they're in trouble with the budgeted scope that they have for this fiscal year.
correct.
And that's, yeah, okay, that's all I'm saying. It was just sort of this, you know, thought, okay, when we look at some of these, it's, you know, they're not in desperate need of money for this, for what we've got them. I was gonna say contracted. for, but
No,
that's
no,
like
no,
construction.
they've got a lot of vacancy savings in the police department still.
Yeah.
Projecting to finish the year with a tremendous amount of savings. They're always trying to fill their positions, but they can't, and even with the amount of vacancies we've put into their budget a vacancy savings number, they're still surpassing that. So it is an issue with them, and they continue to try to fill those positions. And if you were, you may have money this year to address additional items, but
Yeah.
you wouldn't be able to continue them into the following year if they had more success on their recruiting efforts.
Right. Yeah, an interesting one that we got a hint of is planning and zoning. You know, there seems like there's going to be some restructuring. And I don't, you know, I'm sure Chris is looking at what he has for money and, you know, yeah. Anyways, anything else?
I do have a question along that same line. You mentioned recs and parks. Many of their programs, and I'm going to call them programs, are seasonal. So are we allocating for the fluctuation? But this is winter now, so we don't have a pool, we don't have a lot of outdoorsy type activities that would generate revenue. People aren't renting pavilions and whatever. So how do we allocate, or how do we consider, because once spring comes, they're going to have an influx of monies because of activities.
So the second quarter report that you saw just has actual results to date and does not try to project through to the end of the year. When we do projections, which we do in the budget process, and for some of our projections for the current year for what we're doing for the union negotiations to try to prepare our economic information and project, we actually don't just think that the budget is spent evenly throughout the year. We look at trends. For those programs that you're talking about, they expend heavily in July, August, September, but they also spend in May and June as well, and we try to prorate that estimate so that we take into considerations the seasonality of their expenses. So when we're doing projections, we take that into account. And what you're seeing in that report is just a measurement at one period of time.
And the report is from November?
It's, we gave you one for November, but then we did a December update and provided it just last week or the week before.
Yeah, I think it was early last week or so, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Could you just
Thank you.
give us a status on the union negotiations? Have they started yet?
They're underway.
Okay.
And that's about as much as I can say.
That's all I can say.
That's all good. Okay, underway. All right. Is there anything else for director or assistant city manager? No. Okay, well, this,
Did we have, well, there was something else we were supposed to ask about.
uh-oh.
I'm trying to
I'm
think
sure we
of,
can think of it. Put our heads together. Or maybe it was in the minutes.
no, I'm trying to think. Ross is good with the joint meeting. I'm looking at notes.
Are we talking about the budget presentation schedule? Is that one your question?
No, we did that, didn't we? Do we have the budget? We already have that, right? Finalized?
Pretty much. We
It's
haven't,
not finalized?
there was one tweak from a department, right? What department was that? Because they sort of go,
Actually, the mayor's office and the city manager's office. They want to
They
be.
wanted to be on the same day?
Yes, but Malinoff has a doctor's appointment on the day of where the mayor's office was, but Vicky's,
Working on
she's
that.
here.
Vicky
So
can,
we can put them back on the same day.
We can put them on the same day?
I'm gonna change it,
oh,
Okay.
okay,
and then after that, nobody else has asked me to change it. So
Okay.
we should be
Okay.
okay, great.
Okay, well, I can't find any notes from finance, so
fine. Yeah, there's nothing in the minutes.
I would have sent it to you, I think, if I had a question, so we're good.
Question.
I'm good, thank you.
Was it crossing guards? No, okay. I was just looking at the
It
minutes.
may have been crossing
Yeah,
guards.
because of, yeah.
About whether that had been handled, but I think we were told that in the last meeting.
Chris
That-
told us it.
The crossing guards and
Somebody told us.
the two positions, didn't, Mike gave us, or Vicky.
I
gave us-
remember the crossing guards, the city manager came to speak with you to let you know that he was going to grant the wage, the hourly increase to the crossing guards and the related supervisors. So as far as individual positions, I'd have to know which ones you're referring to before I try to
Say
answer
we
that
would see it in the
question.
budget.
No, this is now. This is something that's supposed to be taking place now, not waiting for the budget.
That was my understanding.
Yeah.
No.
No, it's being taken care of now, but in the budget, then it would include.
Reflected for next, yeah,
That's right.
but they're to be paid now,
Now,
not, yeah.
right. And then
Yeah,
memorialize the
the-
budget.
He had brought it up specifically because since the funding is coming from within the same line item within the police budget, there's not actual any legislation, there's not a supplemental appropriation or a fund transfer or anything associated with that, but we wanted to make sure you were aware. So he had brought that up, yeah.
And it's just for information. I didn't expect any legislation to make it happen. He told us it's gonna happen. I'm just looking for timeline.
You might be referring to, the police department also wants to bring on 2 contractual positions. It might be camera monitors.
That's what I'm thinking.
That's at the top of my head, but I don't know if that's the complete picture of what they'll be
But I think
doing.
you're right. There are 2 monitors for some
Again,
sort.
using their current
that he
savings to
mentioned.
bring those on to fill a need that they have there.
Okay.
Wouldn't that be a supplemental appropriation? No, nothing.
There's so much savings in the police department that these are contractual, so you have no ongoing commitment with the positions.
Oh, okay, got it. And did I understand the crossing guard's wage would be comparable to the county,
Matching the county.
matching the county? Yeah,
Which is what we tried to do in the budget last year.
yeah.
Then it got voted down.
And I know people, I know we all sort of forget.
And we still have vacancies in the crossing guards. We were supposed to send out
Probably because of
a
the
little
salary.
message that we need folks.
Yep.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else for the good of the order, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
All in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
So
Thank you very much.
Thank you.